Text on black, the government channel, TGC, has made every attempt to present a historically accurate program. Efforts were made to locate as many relevant visuals as possible, including many rare photographs. For instances in which actual photographs and/or video of the building could not be located, additional materials from other sources have been used to represent the visual story of the Athens City Hall. This is followed by a quote: "The degree of civilization and knowledge prevailing in a community is always clearly designated by its works of art, and none more than by its architecture." Ohio State House Commissioners, 1838.
Athens City Hall often holds the distinction of being the unsung hero of Uptown Athens.
Close-up of a white clock tower with two visible clock faces, topped by an octagonal cupola, beside a tree with orange autumn leaves.
For over 150 years, it's been the hub from which many important city services have.
A black and white historical photograph pans across multi-story brick buildings with Gothic arched windows lining a street with utility poles.
Have been provided to its citizens. But while being the home of these important services, the building often exists in the shadow of its taller and more impressive cousin, the Athens County Courthouse.
The red brick Athens City Building entrance, with a white sign reading City Building above a white door flanked by black lantern fixtures and a flagpole.
Even though it's the older building, it's kind of the doesn't get.
Close-up of the Athens City Building's red brick gabled facade, showing a central circular window with spoke divisions, arched windows below, and decorative brick corbelling along the roofline.
Get the same sort of recognition that the county courthouse does. The county courthouse is much larger, much grander looking.
The Athens County Courthouse's white clock tower rises against a blue sky, with two visible clock faces set within ornate arched surrounds, topped by a louvered octagonal cupola and a weather vane.
But this building is full of all sorts of interesting secrets and things.
Andrew Chicky, Athens Deputy Service Safety Director, speaks on camera against a blue background.
That every inch of this place has something really interesting to offer if you're looking for.
Close-up of two black-faced Roman numeral clock faces on the Athens County Courthouse Tower, both showing approximately 8:09, with ornate white corbelled stonework between them.
Right.
There are a lot of interesting mysteries surrounding this particular building.
Athens City Hall has served many uses throughout its history.
A colorized historical postcard shows early automobiles parked along a street beside a brick building with awnings and a stone church with arched stained glass windows.
First and foremost, as a center of Athens city government and services. Over the years, it has consistently provided.
A colorized historical postcard shows rooftops and an ornate clock tower with a weather vane against a blue sky.
Provided a home for the mayor's office and city council, while at times also housing everything from the police and fire departments.
A black and white photo shows a man in a suit standing and reading from papers to a group of men seated around a large table in an office.
To the town post office, and even an opera house and a barbershop. But as the building approached its 100th anniversary,
a Sanborn fire insurance map labels a building as Opera Ho. 2 degrees with ground floor tenants including P.O. Barber. Gallery 2 degrees, and off.
In 1975, the structure looked worn and tired from years of service and the many modifications it had endured.
A newspaper clipping headlines Mayor says problems endure with City Hall, by Herb Amy, Messenger City Editor. Above a black and white photo captioned Raising Flags, Captain Homer Baird, USN retired, Executive Director of the Athens County Bicentennial Commission, raises the national, state and American Revolution bicentennial flags over City Hall on Sunday.
Endured as the needs of its community changed. There was even discussion amongst its residents that maybe the
A black and white photo shows a stone clock tower with arched windows and circular clock faces on each side.
building's days should be numbered.
There was a lot of talk about tearing down City
The camera tilts up to reveal a louvered belfry above the clock tower's ornate cornice.
Hall and rebuilding a modern city functioning offices, including police and fire
A man wearing glasses and a plaid shirt speaks against a blue background.
and in a kind of a city center. Thankfully, that notion got
The same man pauses silently against the blue background.
axed, and they decided to keep this building, which is iconic and historic.
An aerial shot reveals a red brick building with a white clock tower at a downtown intersection at dusk, a stone church visible to its left.
It's sort of an intangible, the city building. It's not really.
The drone pulls back and descends slightly, showing the full front facade of the brick building with holiday lights framing the entrance and an American flag on a pole beside it.
Where it is, that's the major importance, but being close to the county, and the county.
The drone holds on a closer view of the clock tower and the building's front gable, with a circular decorative medallion visible on the facade.
Commissioners and the auditor and the treasurer and everything being close by, that helps facilitate some degree.
Rick Abel, former Athens mayor and council member, speaks against a blue background.
In my mind of, just getting those people together and
Rick Abel pauses silently, mouth closed, against the blue background.
talking more freely rather than being out somewhere else on the outskirts of town. We never.
A city building sign mounted above a white framed entrance door, number 8, set into a red brick facade.
wanted to lose the uptown area with the university up here and everything.
A stone gateway sign reads, Ohio University 1804 Class Gateway, Religion, Morality and Knowledge being necessary to good government and the happiness of mankind, schools and the means of education shall forever be encouraged. Ordinance of 1787.
It is the heart of the center of town.
The Athens City building is an example of heritage worth preserving. If it was replaced by a new building 20 years ago, would it have
Aerial view of the Athens City building at sunset, a red brick structure with a white clock tower topped by a clock face, surrounded by other brick buildings.
been replaced with a building that people would fight to preserve? And see, this kind of a building is that.
The drone descends, showing the city building's front gable, arched windows, and an American flag and a blue, pink, and white striped flag on poles at street level.
It's our best stuff. The oldest is the best. And I wish we were building stuff today that would.
Tom O'Grady, Director of Outreach, Southeast Ohio History Center, speaks on camera against a blue background.
Compete with the old stuff. And I know every old building's got challenges, but they are also full of stories.
A title card reads Athens City Hall, Stories to Tell. Then transitions to a timeline graphic spanning 1874 to 1875 to the 2000s, with chapters: Birth of a Building, The Early Years, The Opera House, The Fire Station Years, Deciding a Fate, Rescuing a Landmark, and Preserving History. The timeline graphic pans slowly across its full span, with The Birth of a Building, 1874 to 1875 note at left and Preserving History, 2000s at right.
This city building was built prior to the Athens County Courthouse across the way. So thinking about what did
A close-up of the city building's white clock tower against a sunset sky, showing Roman numeral clock faces and louvered belfry.
Athens look like prior to 1874 when the cornerstone was laid for this building. They're using log cabins still for administering the daily business of the city and the county. And so
A black and white photograph shows the corner of a log structure with notched log walls, 2 small windows, and a wood shingled roof.
Athens had grown quite a bit at this point. The university had grown and become more established. There was a great
A historical engraving shows a 3-story building with a domed clock tower, flanked by 2 wings and surrounding trees, labeled as an Ohio University campus view.
need for a center of government.
As the building was erected on land owned by
A hand-drawn illustration captioned "Bird's Eye View of Athens, Ohio" shows a main street with buildings labeled General Store, Post Office, and Blacksmith, a church with a steeple, and a town hall sign at right.
Ohio University, the city was charged an annual rent of $3.
When the cornerstone was laid in
3 overlapping United States $1 bills are superimposed over the Athens bird's eye illustration, near the town hall sign.
in 74, there was a lot of fanfare to the initiation of this building. And so
A newspaper clipping headed "Laying the Cornerstone of the City Hall" reads, "The ceremonies of laying the cornerstone of the City Hall will take place on Monday, August 24th. At 2 o'clock Prime Minister. The conduct of the exercises will be under the auspices of the Masonic Fraternity, Parametheia Lodge, of Athens."
Masons had a ceremony, they laid the cornerstone, they had many public officials from all over the area that attended that ceremony with great fanfare, and the actual building of City Hall.
A historical photograph shows a downtown street lined with multi-story brick commercial buildings, horse-drawn carriages, and pedestrians on an unpaved road.
Took just under a year. So the cornerstone was laid in August of 1874. It opened in June of 1875. So they worked over the winter months, had the city building operational in less than a year, which is pretty impressive because it's a pretty decent sized structure.
A close-up of a large clock with a black face and white Roman numerals mounted on a white stone building facade.
The building was built by Henry O'Bleness. His son became a banker and a philanthropist, and so he left money to build O'Bleness Hospital.
At the time that it opened in 1875, it only had 2 stories. So the first story, the height is very...
A timeline graphic shows 4 labeled periods: 1874 to 1875, 1876 to 1910 the early years, 1880s-1930s the fire station years, and 1940s-1960s, each marked with a historical photograph.
Similar to what it is today. And then the second floor was an opera house.
A vintage playbill reads, "The Rivals, a delightful comedy in 5 acts, Ye Jolly Jesters Dramatic Club of Ohio University, Athens Opera House, Friday evening, January 31st.
Multi-purpose space with a balcony at the rear.
The grand bell of the Athens City Hall was cast in
A large bronze bell bears the cast inscription Van Dutzen and Tiff Cincinnati, with a worker in a white hard hat and orange shirt standing beside it.
1875 by the Buckeye Bell Foundry of Van Dusen and Tift in Cincinnati. This firm is still in business.
A vintage print advertisement reads, "Buckeye Bell Foundry. Bells of pure copper and tin for churches, schools, fire alarms, farms, etc. fully warranted. Catalog sent free. Van Dutzen and Tift, Cincinnati, O."
Today, operating under the name Verdun.
One of the reasons for the bell is that it
A Verdun Company logo appears beside a person in a Verdun branded shirt using a power drill to work on a bell mounted in a wooden belfry.
calls people to the building. It tells time, so it's connected to the clockworks, striking on the hour.
A bronze bell hangs inside a white louvered bell tower cupola, viewed from below against an overcast sky.
And it also signals for if there were to be a fire somewhere in the city. Again, the fire...
A bronze bell suspended by yellow straps sits inside a white louvered bell tower opening, with a black metal bracket visible below it.
Department is in a carriage house behind. If there were a fire, you'd have individuals that would run here.
A Sanborn fire insurance map shows the Athens Fire Department building labeled 2, 1 combination hose, Camel and H&L wagon, 1 hose wagon, adjacent to Opera Ho. 2 degrees with a PO and barber noted below.
The bell would ring 6 times in succession very quickly, and then there'd be a pause, and then...
A color-coded map shows streets including W. Carpenter, Washington W.E., and N. Congress, with a block labeled Lancaster Public School and a cross-marked parcel near Court Ho.
Followed by a number of rings to represent the ward of the city. So 2 rings of the bell would be the 2nd ward, or the 4 rings the 4th.
A wider view of the same map reveals additional landmarks including Gould's Sub, Brown's Ad, Athens Brick Company, Ohio University, and the Sunnyside Lumber Company, along streets including First, Union, and Washington.
The rule was if you're a firefighter in the city, you had to be within earshot to be able to hear the bell that time. And the firefighters that were at their homes who would hear the bell ring would listen.
A sepia-toned vintage newspaper photograph shows two people seated on a horse-drawn carriage, with a horse visible at right.
For what ward, and then they would run or take their horse or whatever to that section of the city in response. You'd have some that would be dedicated to coming to City Hall first, getting equipment, and then going to wherever the fire may be. It's not
A black and white archival footage labeled representation shows a large crowd of people gathered along a street beside a multi-story brick building.
the most efficient way of doing things, but it was effective. So imagine you're at the front doors
A black and white photo of a brick building's exterior shows a person walking past its front entrance, which has large glass doors and a wall-mounted lantern.
of City Hall. And at that time, it was double doors. You'd walk in, and the first thing that you would see.
A black and white interior photo labeled representation shows a grand staircase with a decorated banister, wood-paneled walls, globe light fixtures, and seating beneath the stairs.
Is this very nice lobby with staircase on either side, kind of a grand staircase going up to the second floor. Now behind
A stylized, heavily processed interior view labeled representation shows the base of a staircase with a patterned floor, double doors in the background, and a small round table with a chair to the right.
those staircases were on one side the post office. So the post office existed here for a period of time.
A Sanborn-style fire insurance map shows a building labeled Opera Ho. 2 degrees with sections marked Gallery 2 degrees. P.O. and Barber, with a fire escape noted on the exterior.
And on the other side, there was a barber shop, another office space. There was a mayor's office on that level.
A labeled representation black and white illustration shows 2 figures wearing uniformed caps standing near a wood-paneled wall and a posted notice.
The police department was on that same level, and then other various offices.
A labeled representation black and white illustration shows the same 2 uniformed figures from the front, with a lamp and mechanical equipment visible to the right.
For a short period of time, the county operations coexisted in the city building.
A colorized postcard-style illustration shows a red brick multi-story building with a clock tower, arched windows, decorative cornices, and a statue on the roofline.
Primarily while they were building the county courthouse. So as far as we know, the barbershop that existed in City Hall, and we know that that happened, that there was a barbershop here, the maps say as much, and it's a carved out space.
A building interior shows a platform lift in an alcove on the left, a staircase with a metal handrail in the center, dark armchairs along the right wall, and a bronze statue near glass doors.
So we know that that's a fact. We know that the Berry Hotel, not long after, also established a barbershop.
A black and white composite archival photo shows a multi-story brick building at center, surrounded by 4 interior scenes depicting a dining room, a bar area with 2 people standing behind a counter, a staircase lobby, and an ornate hallway with a staircase. A portrait appears at the bottom.
And as far as we can tell, the same person that was operating and running the barbershop at the City Hall.
A labeled representation black and white engraving shows a person in a top hat seated in a chair reading a newspaper titled The New York Herald, while a second person kneels beside them.
All location operated and was running the barbershop at the Berry Hotel. So all of the speculative evidence points toward it being the same, one and the same person, and they grew their business and moved it over to the Berry Hotel.
A newspaper page pans across an advertisement reading Hotel Berry Barbershop, Expert Barbers, Chris Lomax, Prop.
Those that are newer city halls are largely mixed use. To have a barber shop in this building, which would be a private business providing haircuts for the electeds, but for the public as well. And it's kind of funny thinking about what this building was back in the day. So, and we don't have that now. We have
a hair cutting chart, copyrighted 1884 by F.M. Schenck, displays 6 illustrated hairstyles from behind, labeled La Pompadour and Business Cut among others.
No private businesses that are here in City Hall. But it's interesting to see other communities kind of go.
Close-up of the chart center title reads Hair Cutting Chart, copyrighted 1884 by F.M. Schenck.
Going full circle and doing something very similar to what this building would have looked like back in, the 1880s, 1890s.
Steve Patterson continues speaking. The nameplate is no longer visible in this closer framing.
As small towns such as Athens expanded both in size and wealth in the 1800s, they saw the need for
A timeline graphic shows 5 circle-framed historical photos on a horizontal line, labeled Birth of a Building, the Opera House, and Deciding a Fate, spanning periods from 1874 to 1875 through 1960s-1970s.
either new or improved town halls. The idea of a town hall that could also serve as an opera house was
A sketch-style close-up shows the roofline and corner tower of a multi-story brick building against an overcast sky.
not a unique idea unto the city of Athens in the 1870s. In fact, this idea of serving the local citizens with
A sketch-style view shows the upper stories and storefront-level facade of a multi-story brick building, with partial signage visible at lower right.
a multi-purpose venue was a popular one of its day.
The purpose of a building like City Hall
A sepia street-level photograph shows a tree-lined unpaved road with a horse and carriage at right, brick buildings on both sides, and a pointed tower visible in the distance. A sign reading Ohio is partially visible at right.
really was to be used all the time for something. When you're going to put an investment,
A sepia photograph shows a tree-lined unpaved street with low commercial buildings and a pointed tower visible in the distance, viewed from street level without a horse and carriage.
of this magnitude at that time, you really got to fill it regularly with activities. And one way to make some money back is to have performances regularly and have
Andrew Chicky continues speaking.
events happening here fairly often.
It was the revenue producer, along with
A vintage performance poster reads Lloyd, King of Magic. 2 hours of. With an illustrated figure in a dark suit holding a wand.
those other parts of the first floor that we were rented out to businesses. And so that helped pay for.
A black and white photograph labeled Representation shows a large cast in costume on an elaborately decorated stage set.
All of the utilities and the cleaning and everything else. So I think it was definitely looked at as a revenue enhancer for them, much like parking is today. It's there's
Rick Abel continues speaking.
not many places to do it, so that was a big attraction.
Not all opera houses were contained within government town halls, though. Opera houses were an attractive commercial venture as well, with many communities.
A sepia-toned historical photograph shows a multi-story brick building labeled Hainer Opera with ornate facade detailing and show posters displayed at street level.
Such as Athens, neighbor to the north, Nelsonville, constructing an opera house solely as a business endeavor.
A color-coded historical map shows Athens County townships and communities including Nelsonville, Haydenville, Trimble, Jacksonville, Booktell, Millfield, York, and Dover.
Well, you know what I think back on is Stewart's Opera House, and that's on the second floor, just like the Opera House here, but it must
The exterior upper facade of a red brick building bears the name Stewart's in raised lettering, with arched windows and decorative white ornamental elements along the roofline.
have taken up the entire second floor, including the section that's over where the court is today, the municipal court.
Lisa Eliason, Athens City Law Director and Literary Editor, speaks on camera against a blue background.
Clerk's office.
Wishing to appear more cosmopolitan and attract newcomers to their small towns, the Ohio
A colorized historical postcard shows a commercial street with multi-story brick buildings, early automobiles, a streetcar on tracks, and a sign reading Opera House on one of the storefronts.
Valley and the Plain States became the center of the small-town opera house scene. As such, the Athens Opera House.
A historical newspaper page shows an advertisement reading Easter Girls in Piff, Poff Fouf, Athens Opera House Thursday, January 24th. Alongside a headline torn to bits by explosion.
Was hugely popular as a source of nightlife and entertainment uptown.
Well, I think it had to be.
A historical newspaper page shows a photograph captioned "Seen from way down east" at Athens Opera House, Monday evening, February 4th.
A highlight of, it's a social occasion.
Everyone wanted to look their best.
A handwritten record card reads, title It Pays to Advertise, place, Opera House, date, November 2nd, notes, Papa plus I went together.
Maybe trying to find a place to have dinner before at a restaurant. Maybe actually go to the Berry Hotel for dinner.
Lisa Eliason continues speaking against a blue background.
At that time in history, many of the citizens living in Athens and Athens County likely spoke a variety of languages because of the immigrant settlement in the region, and so possibly a lot of the activity that would occur in
Tom O'Grady pauses briefly between sentences.
opera houses may have been nonverbal. It may have just been entertainment, or might have been in
A sepia-toned promotional poster reads the MC. Giboney Family, Musical and Sketch Entertainment, showing a group portrait with instruments including a drum and trumpet. Text below reads B.S. Driggs, Business Manager.
because you would have to appeal to people who might not speak English so well.
These small-town opera
The same MC. Giboney Family promotional poster remains on screen.
houses generally seated 500 to 1,000 people. While Athens was said to hold 600 attendees,
A historical newspaper shows a printed illustration of two cloaked figures facing each other across a small table holding bottles.
larger houses, such as those in Athens and Nelsonville, were known to have a balcony or gallery to accommodate additional seats.
A black and white illustration labeled Representation depicts a packed multi-tiered theater interior, with a crowd-filled stage set showing an arched gateway visible at left.
The Athens Opera House was so successful that an auxiliary building 5 stories tall was constructed directly behind City Hall to house the needed backdrops for the productions of the day. Some of the most popular shows that appeared on these
A vintage Chautauqua poster advertises the event at Clay Center, July 27 to August 5, listing speakers including U.S. Senator Robert M. La Follette on July 30 and Eugene V. Debs, the great labor leader, on July 31.
stages belonged to what was known as the Chautauqua Circuit.
I sometimes think about what it was like to come into the opera.
The full poster is now visible, adding Honorable E.W. Hawk, Governor of Kansas, speaking August 2, and listing offerings, speakers, singers, bands, entertainers. Tickets are advertised at less than 4 cents apiece.
House and what kind of entertainment there was, or I know some of the speakers were visionaries for the times.
An illustrated Chautauqua promotional image shows a woman in a wide-brimmed hat holding a 1917 season ticket, Vaughter Chautauqua System ticket. The header reads Cass Lake, Minnesota, August 3 to 7.
Audiences in towns such as Athens would now be able to enjoy classic plays, Broadway hits.
A black and white photograph shows a large group of people in varied costumes gathered on a wooden platform, holding a banner reading Chautauqua, with buildings on a hillside behind them.
And appreciate musical performances ranging from Metropolitan Opera to Glee clubs, while also having an available venue.
A black and white photograph shows a large group of costumed performers on a stage before a painted woodland backdrop. A banner reads Refined Circus. A caption reads believed to be the actual Athens Opera House.
To be used by both the Athens High School drama students and that of Ohio University. Another popular entertainment.
A newspaper page displays an ad reading Athens Opera House, Monday, October 16. Dainty Maids Musical Comedy Company, 30 people, 30, mostly girls, strictly high class, refined musical comedy with a carload of special scenery. Seats now on sale at Hart MC Key Drug Company.
Of the day in the Athens Opera House were traveling vaudeville shows.
I always sit and kind of imagine
An early black and white film clip, labeled Representation, shows two performers dancing outdoors, one in a dark full-length dress and feathered hat, the other in a striped shirt, checked trousers, and bowler hat.
what it must have looked like on the walls of the theater, because back in those days, a lot of it was handcraft painted. Artisans would come in and paint the backdrops that were on the wall.
A newspaper advertisement reads Athens Opera House, Athens, Ohio, alongside two vintage show posters. The Sandow Trocadero Vaudevilles and Joseph Hart and Carrie DeMar, Joseph Hart Vaudeville Company.
Walls, and a lot would have been, permanently painted on. Allegedly, there is some of that above some.
A man with gray hair and a white beard, wearing a brown Deer Valley vest over a blue shirt, speaks against a blue background.
The drop ceilings here in the city building, I have not seen that personally, but I have gone up into the.
A black and white photo shows the interior of a deteriorating brick structure with exposed wooden ceiling beams.
Clock tower, or the cupola of the city building, and it's interesting the way in which you go to get up.
A black and white photo shows a close-up of wooden framing and structural timbers inside a building under construction or demolition.
Up there, you can see some really interesting doors that go off into what was, again, some of the remnants of what this facility looked like, because the whole second floor up to what is now the third floor, which didn't exist.
A lower third scroll graphic identifies the speaker as Steve Patterson, Athens mayor, and former council member.
Back then, was all part of that theater. So I'm sure it was rather grand back in the day.
Steve Patterson turns his head to one side, no longer gesturing.
For anyone to go into the current municipal court on the second floor, you'll notice right away the height of the ceilings of that.
An empty courtroom interior with rows of black chairs, a judge's bench, jury box with gray upholstered seats, an Ohio state seal on the wall, U.S. and Ohio flags, and a monitor on a stand displaying a video call.
Particular courtroom, and that was because it was all, part of what was the theater back then.
The Opera House, as a business venture, really started waning at.
A black and white photo shows a large vacant hall with ornate turned column balcony railings curving across the upper level and debris scattered on the floor below. A film reel graphic overlays the image as a transition effect.
The time that moving pictures started to become more popular and became a primary activity of leisure for
A man wearing glasses and a plaid shirt speaks against a blue background.
people in the community. So there are these movie houses that pop up, and the Opera House is a way.
A black and white photo shows the marquee of Sheen's Athena Theater reading gala opening today 1 p.m. 3 little words, decorated with bunting below.
To compete with that, decides to try to do something similar, and the economics
The same man in the plaid shirt pauses briefly before continuing to speak.
of it are they couldn't afford to ticket it at the same level that these
A black and white photo shows two silhouetted figures working on a marquee sign. Partial text below reads dar.r.
movie houses did. And so the cost to see a show at the Opera House was.
A film reel spins in the foreground beside an advertisement reading at the Athens Opera House. The very latest moving pictures, all new films. Enjoy real life. Open at 6:30 every evening. 5C to all.
2, 3, 4 times more expensive than going to a show at one of the movie houses. They're really kind of on the losing end of that technology and those advances in technology.
With the closing of the Opera House, the no longer needed
A black and white aerial photograph shows a multi-story stone building and a street lined with vehicles and storefronts.
auxiliary building, which housed the backdrops behind the city building, was torn down as well.
A colorized historical photograph shows Court Street with a stone church, a red brick building with a clock tower, and a tall multi-story brick building. Early motor vehicles are parked along the street. Text on a black screen reads, "The Athens Opera House ceased operations in 1925. A timeline graphic spans 5 periods, 1874 to 1875, birth of a building, 1876 to 1910, 1880s-1930s, the Opera House, 1940s-1960s, the fire station years, and 1960s-1970s, deciding a fate, each with a historical photograph, over a faded brick building background.
Look back at old photos and pictures, most include the county court.
A black and white historical photograph shows a large multi-story brick building with a central clock tower, ornate arched windows, and a columned entrance portico. A sign reading Stedman and Company is visible on an adjacent building.
Courthouse is a feature of Court Street, and it is hard to imagine.
The same courthouse photograph now reveals several people standing on the sidewalk at the base of the front steps, with an exterior staircase visible on the right side of the building.
There was a period where that building didn't exist uptown. It is so iconic to the uptown.
A colorized historical postcard shows a busy street lined with storefronts, telegraph poles, horse-drawn vehicles, and pedestrians. A clock tower rises above the roofline in the center background.
Town scene. This building, in many ways, is very similar, though. This building has been numerous things.
A wet concrete sidewalk with a circular drain cover, a person's legs in jeans and boots stand beside a white bucket near brick pavers.
And has changed and transformed and changed again and been rebuilt many times.
Andrew Chicky, Athens Deputy Service Safety Director, speaks against a blue background.
And if you look at old architecture drawings of the building, the interior.
A Sanborn fire insurance map shows the Opera House, labeled Opera Ho. Second, flanked by First Presbyterian Church, Fire Department, and Jail, with Mayor's office first noted inside the Opera House footprint.
It's been so different in so many ways, but at the same time there are these pockets that still exist.
The map zooms in on the Opera House block, showing stage and scenery second. Frame slated third, and asbestos stage curtain labeled within the building outline.
Almost undisturbed in a lot of ways, and we see that mostly on the main level. A lot of that.
The map's lower section shows Mayor's office first within the Opera House footprint, with office and wall-only partitions flanking it on the ground floor.
That is very similar. The office spaces are primarily intact, but the fire...
A wide office reception area with dark red desks. A nameplate reads Monica Flowers on the front desk. Two people sit at workstations in a windowed room beyond.
Fire station moved from the carriage house into the City Hall building. They took out...
A black and white historical photograph shows the front facade of a multi-story brick building with large vehicle bay doors. A fire truck is parked at street level on the left.
These beautiful staircases up to the second floor and replaced those with engine bays.
A newspaper page shows a black and white photograph of a two-story brick building labeled City Fire Department at street level, with a circular window at the roofline. Adjacent text reads 32 South Court with bullet points listing electric extensions. Desk lamps, alarm clocks, and tennis balls.
Into the building, and it's hard to imagine what that would have looked like in the 50s and 60s. Now when you walk in the building, it's hard to fathom that they parked fire trucks right there at the front door, but they did.
So when you are entering...
A black and white historical photograph of a brick building exterior with a sign reading City Fire Department on the right side.
Into the mayor's suite, basically, in the city building. There is a doorway, and you open that.
A concrete stairwell filled with stored items including boxes, black bags, a red bin, and an Office Depot box in the foreground.
Door, and it is a set of steps, and we don't 100% know where.
A closer view up the same stairwell showing exposed wooden floor joists overhead, a table lamp standing on a step, and a framed picture leaning against the right wall.
Where those steps actually went to, whether they went to a hose drying room where they went.
A black and white photo labeled representation showing a coiled hose and metal fittings on a wooden surface.
Would have hung hoses to dry, whether it was to sleeping quarters for the fire department, because the firefighting apparatus would have been really close to the front facade of the building.
A black and white photo labeled representation shows a room with multiple metal framed beds with white linens on a dark floor.
If you stand back and look at the building from Washington Street, you will see where there has been replacement brick.
The exterior brick wall of a building with a white framed multi-pane window and a small shrub at its base.
Because there were two large doors that were there as part of where the firefighting apparatus.
A heavily distressed black and white photo shows a person standing in front of a brick building with a city fire sign visible at right and an open bay door at center.
This was parked inside this particular building. So we call it the stairs to nowhere.
A downward view into a concrete stairwell shaft with exposed wooden floor joists and loose wiring overhead, and a table lamp with a pleated shade standing on a lower step.
Really don't have a clear understanding at this point anyway as to where those stairs, where they led to, what they were used for.
A man wearing a Deer Valley vest pauses between sentences against a blue background.
The bell stayed in its place from 1875 until the mid-1940s.
A brass bell hangs suspended by a yellow strap inside a white tower opening, with louvered vents visible to the right.
And at that time it was replaced with an air raid siren. We're coming to the end of World War II. There was a desire and a need related to the war effort to have more attention toward if there were to be
A black and white archival film shows multiple propeller aircraft flying in formation against an overcast sky.
Some sort of attack or something like that. And so the bell was removed from the belfry and replaced with the air raid siren.
A newspaper clipping reads, "Fire Department using radio alarm units. The Athens Fire Department today placed in service a new radio alarm system for off-duty and volunteer firemen."
And set on the second floor, where it stayed in a corner for another 30 years.
The first major remodeling of the building was completed in the 1950s at an estimated cost of just under $150,000.
There's this really great photo of an architect.
A black and white photo shows a person in a suit standing beside a large spoked wheel mounted on a metal frame, inside a room with peeling brick walls and 2 windows.
His last name is Trotwine, standing near the bell, and it's just...
The camera pans down the same photo, revealing scattered lumber and debris on the floor around the wheel and frame.
Set off to the side, the yoke is not attached to it. You can tell that it hasn't been cared for, but there was an interest.
The photo is now zoomed further in, showing the wheel, frame, and floor debris with the person barely visible at the upper left.
In preserving it, and people got together and shipped it to the Athens Armature Works.
A different black and white photo shows a group of people lifting a large bell off a flatbed truck in front of a brick building marked City Building.
To have it restored. Now the clock works and the clock faces have not been operational since 1919, when the clockworks were removed from City Hall over to the county courthouse to make the courthouse's clock work. And
a sepia-toned photo shows the upper belfry tower of a multi-story building, with 2 circular openings and a weather vane at the top.
Nothing replaced the clock at City Hall. It essentially sat dormant since 1919, so about 105 years.
A newspaper clipping reads, C. Milliken, who is moving the city clock to the courthouse tower, stated that he found the works of the 40-year-old timepiece in perfect condition after all these years. In all that time the clock has never been taken down until now. Its innards are now reposing in a tub of gasoline and will soon be on duty again after a well-earned rest of several days. New hands have been made for the clock and the foundation is being laid for the clock in the courthouse tower.
In the 1970s, and roughly the 100-year anniversary, or in the 100-year time frame.
A timeline graphic shows 5 circular photos labeled the Opera House with sections: 1880s-1930s, 1940s-1960s, Deciding a Fate, 1960s-1970s, 1970s-1990s, and Preserving History, 2000s.
Of this particular building. It was in pretty rough shape.
And at the time,
a newspaper headline reads, "City Hall offices to be switched when fire station is completed," with body text describing planned office rearrangements by Mayor Raymond Shepard.
Across the street, the city had just invested in a 6-story parking garage. And so it wouldn't make a lot of sense to have spent all that money to build a parking garage to bring people uptown and then move your center of city government.
A black and white aerial photo shows downtown brick buildings, utility poles, an active excavation site, and a church with a white steeple in the background.
Out of the uptown area that you just invested in.
They passed the first 1% income tax, and I can remember my parents talking about it, and my dad complaining to me once I got on council.
Rick Abel, former Athens mayor and council member, speaks against a blue background.
But that then became the catalyst that we could build a parking garage that helps relieve
a composite image blends a historical black and white street scene with a color photo of the same downtown intersection, showing First Presbyterian Church on the left and a Chase Bank on the right.
A lot of the uptown merchants and the problems that we have with parking uptown area, but it also allowed money to spend on keeping our City Hall up to date.
This building is built.
A black and white aerial photo shows a City Hall tower with a domed cupola, arched windows, and a circular clock face, surrounded by brick buildings.
Built with the wood in it is from timbers from the primeval forests of Ohio. The stone on the foundation.
An aerial color shot shows a densely wooded hillside with trees in green, yellow, orange, and red foliage.
Was cut from the bedrock of Ohio, and the bricks were fired made with clay, probably quarried somewhere.
A black and white historical photo shows 9 men in work clothes and hats standing in a row in front of a large industrial structure with smokestacks.
In this county. So this building can also tell us much about the natural history of Ohio.
Tom O'Grady, Director of Outreach, Southeast Ohio History Center, speaks on camera against a blue background.
As well as the architecture and the craftsmen who built it.
The second
A newspaper headline reads Council adopts garage ordinance. City Hall renovation lacks funds. Byline Stephen Shanese, Post contributing editor.
round of remodeling took place in the late 1960s and early 1970s at a cost of nearly $230,000.
Same frame as Gap 1, no new visual information to add.
What we see today is really the result of a major effort between 1969 and 1971.
A timeline graphic shows 5 era labels: 1940s-1960s, 1960s-1970s, the fire station years, 1970s-1990s, rescuing a landmark, and 2000s, each with a circular historical photo, set against a faded building backdrop.
Where they basically added a whole nother floor and an elevator to the building. And
a newspaper headline reads City Hall remodeling funds seen in 68 appropriations, with a black and white photo of the City Hall tower viewed from below.
There's still a need with the municipal court and city council for a period of time before they moved up to the 3rd floor.
Tom O'Grady continues speaking against the blue background.
To have kind of a formal space, and so municipal court carved out a courtroom with
an empty courtroom with wood-paneled walls, a raised judge's bench, an American flag, an Ohio state flag, and a wall-mounted seal. A whiteboard and monitor are visible to the left.
Tall ceilings.
I had jury trials, a lot of jury trials. So you're in this space in the courtroom. And
a high-ceilinged room with tall windows framed by dark red curtains, rows of chairs face left, and framed photographs and a document hang on the white walls above with wainscoting.
In the late afternoon, the sun's coming in through the windows, and I have really fond memories of that time of day.
Lisa Eliason, Athens City Law Director and literary editor, speaks on camera against a dark blue background.
The trial's almost over. The jury's about to retire, just sitting in there and the light coming in at the late afternoon.
A nameplate reading Todd L. Grace, judge, sits on the judge's bench in the foreground of the courtroom.
In the late 1970s, the Athens City Hall, along with 3 other local structures.
A color aerial shot shows the red brick Athens City Hall with its white clock tower, a blue parking sign reading PA in the foreground.
Including the Athens County Courthouse, Ohio University's Hanning Hall.
A neoclassical stone building with tall columns bears the inscription Ohio University, Athens, Ohio, 1804.
Which was originally the town post office, and the Silas Bingham House on the Ohio University campus were nominated to the National Register of Historic Places.
A 2-story log building with white trimmed windows and a center door stands surrounded by snow-covered ground.
Athens City Hall was noted to be a great example of Victorian Romanesque style, and one of the few 19th century halls still in use in southeastern Ohio.
An American flag flies beside a decorative street lamp, with a white brick building bearing a clock tower and city building signage visible behind it.
As the city expanded services to its citizens, it became a great challenge to fit those services.
A white clock tower with a domed cupola, Roman numeral clock face, and arched windows rises above surrounding brick buildings and tree-covered hills.
Services into the existing square footage of City Hall. Several city departments.
An aerial view of the red brick city building facade, featuring arched windows, a circular window at the gable peak, and an American flag at the entrance.
Including the police, the city auditor, as well as the law director and prosecutor's offices, all needed more space.
A black and white photo shows the upper facade of a multi-story brick building with a square bell tower, arched windows, circular window, and decorative cornice brackets.
In the late 70s, there's an opportunity across the alley to build
a black and white photo shows the street-level facade of the city building, with an arched entrance on the left, a low-roofed addition at center, and a period car parked at the curb.
Law administration building.
We really needed a more modern police department.
A color exterior shot shows the rear of a red brick building with tall arched windows and a white trimmed entrance, surrounded by snow-covered shrubs.
and more space for the auditor's office and the law director's office, and that.
A man wearing a tan shirt speaks against a blue background, transitioning from a dissolve overlay of the building exterior.
And freed up some space here.
City council chambers moved from municipal court up to the third floor.
The empty third floor city council chambers feature a curved red dais with the Athens 1797 seal, nameplates including Lisa Elagian and Jessica Thomas, an American flag, and an Ohio state flag against blue walls.
And with the 150th anniversary of the Athens City Hall approaching, the administration looked to reinvest in the building's heritage and unique features.
An aerial view shows the full red brick Athens City Hall building from above, with its white clock tower, gray roof, arched windows, and a lower brick annex wing to the right.
The Edward and Martha Berry conference room in the front of the building on the first floor has been given a major overhaul to include a name change.
The overhauled conference room features a large live Edgewood table surrounded by black rolling chairs, with a wood engraved plaque reading Berry Hotel depicting a multi-story building facade with coffee shop, lounge bar, and popcorn signage.
I was thinking about the 150th of the City Hall building, and I got this crazy notion that it would be really cool if we could put the bell back up in the belfry and make it operational again.
We have returned.
A large bronze bell sits mounted in a black yoke on a wooden pallet outdoors, beside a truck marked all/nitro, WV.
Turned the original bell up into the bell tower of this building, up in the top of the cupola.
A low-angle exterior view shows the red brick city building with its white clock tower and a decorative street lamp in the foreground.
So that's returned to its rightful home. We also always had the four-phase clocks, or at least the clock faces on the cupola. So now we have state-of-the-art mechanisms in there to run the four-phase clocks that has
a stone clock tower with two visible Roman numeral clock faces against a blue sky, transitioning to the interview speaker.
Hands on it. We have this fabled statue here in the city of Athens.
A close-up of a gold-painted classical female statue holding a bowl against a gray wall.
That was dedicated in 1895 by a group of women that were part of the temple.
The same statue shown from a wider angle, revealing a draped gown, headband, and a shallow bowl held at her side.
Temperance movement. It was a statue of Hebe, the goddess of youthful elixir, and
a newspaper clipping reads, "The statue is the familiar one which stands in front of the courthouse, at the corner of Washington and Court Streets." Knowing the history of the lady above the fountain, one is puzzled as to why the Women's Christian Temperance Union, in presenting the fountain, should choose Hebe of all ladies, to espouse its cause.
It was a statue that stood at the intersection of Court and Washington in front of the county courthouse.
A colorized historical postcard shows a red brick courthouse with a clock tower and a rooftop statue with one arm raised.
Unfortunately, Hebe fell into disrepair and was vandalized, and individuals who ran.
A newspaper article headlined "Hebe on Fountain Suffers Injustice" by Lawson Diggs describes a bottle of Sugar Creek stuff placed in the statue's hand.
And our water treatment plant were able to gather her parts and put her in a box, but she sat.
The same article is shown closer, making the headline and byline more legible.
Sat in a box for many years at the water treatment plant. And so they were able to.
The interview speaker, a man with gray hair and a white beard wearing a Deer Valley vest, transitions back on screen.
Basically solder her back together using zinc lids from canning jars because Hebe.
A black and white photo shows the Hebe statue indoors on a white metal scaffold structure, holding a tray in one raised hand, with a brick wall behind her.
It's made out of zinc. So Hebe is now here in the city building, and we're going to be working to create a pedestal.
A low-angle close-up of the gold-painted Hebe statue shows her face and upper body leaning forward, holding a shallow bowl in her outstretched hand, against a white ceiling.
That will look a lot like the water fountain pedestal that she once upon a time stood atop.
A wider low-angle view reveals the statue also holds a large jug at her side, with an arched window visible behind her.
In front of the county courthouse, with a panorama on the wall behind her that will kind
A black and white historical photo shows the Hebe statue mounted on an ornate pedestal outdoors in front of a red brick building with arched windows.
of be an aged sepia-looking diorama of the county
The interview speaker gestures with one hand while speaking.
courthouse in Uptown as to what it kind of looked like with Hebe standing there. So it should be quite spectacular once we get.
A colorized historical postcard shows a close-up of the red brick courthouse corner, with the Hebe fountain on a paved plaza and early model automobiles parked nearby.
That portion of the project done as well. Mary Dials, she would often say, Mayor, you've got
The gold-painted Hebe statue stands indoors beside a glass automatic door, holding a shallow bowl outstretched, with a black bench seat visible at her base.
to bring Hebe back out to the public so the public can see her. I used to see her when I was a little girl, and Mary was in her 90s. When we finally brought Hebe up to the city building, which was on a Friday, a good friend of mine who had been
A close-up of dark stone surface shows a partial brass medallion inscribed 1974 and car at the right edge, beside a stone architectural base at left.
always in close contact with Mary Dials, called Mary Dials on Saturday and said, Mary,
A brass oval medallion embedded in dark stone reads 1974, Carolee.
I'm going to come pick you up and take you to see something. And Mary was completely unaware.
A woman wearing a green shirt and nasal cannula sits in a wheelchair, flanked by two standing women, inside a building entrance.
Of what we were doing. So Mary got to visit with Hebe, and unfortunately,
The same woman in the wheelchair rests her hand on the base of a gold-painted figurative statue. A small brass medallion is visible on the base beside her hand.
2 weeks later she passed away, but I like to believe that the one request that I was able to fulfill was making sure that Mary Dials got to see Hebe and know that now Hebe was going to be in a place to where the public can enjoy her as well.
A man in a white polo shirt and cap gestures toward the gold-painted Hebe statue inside a building lobby marked Office of the Athletics. The scene fades to black, then a historical timeline graphic appears showing era labels: 1940s-1960s, the fire station years, 1960s-1970s, 1970s-1990s, rescuing a landmark, and 2000s. The timeline scrolls to reveal additional labels above each node: deciding a fate, 1960s-1970s, and preserving history, 2000s.
And they'll never build anything like these things again. We've moved past that era.
We need to continue to put money, invest in this building to continue to. We need to continue to put money, invest in this building to continue to improve it.
A man wearing glasses, a dark suit, and a red patterned tie stands in front of a brick building with a sign reading City Building, decorated with holiday garland and ribbon.
The real life of it is the people that work there. It's really how the spirit is and how the people
A man in a beige shirt speaks against a plain blue background.
are that are doing your government. Are they open? Do they want to talk? Do they want to serve? Do they want to...
The shot dissolves from the interview to an aerial view of a tree-lined landscape with a highway bridge in the mid-distance.
bring the city forward.
For as much as things change in Athens, the beautiful thing about living here.
A white clock tower with a domed cupola stands in the foreground, the same bridge and tree-covered valley visible behind it.
Is the feel of the community remains even if things change, and some of that has to do with landmarks.
A man wearing glasses and a plaid shirt speaks against a blue background, then the shot dissolves to an outdoor scene.
And I consider the City Hall to be one of those landmarks for the community.
This is part of the...
A brick building with a clock tower and domed cupola sits beneath a rainbow arching across a pink-orange sky.
beginnings of Ohio here. The American Western University that became Ohio University.
A color illustration depicts a multi-story brick building with a clock tower, surrounded by trees, with additional brick buildings flanking it.
Is the reason Ohio got settled, and this city grew up around it and is part of that same story. And as much of that...
A sepia-toned historical photograph shows a main street lined with storefronts, telegraph poles, horse-drawn carriages, and pedestrians, with a clock tower visible on the left.
Story as we can preserve We're preserving the history of the people who are from here, the people who built it.
A man with white hair and a mustache, wearing a blue plaid shirt, speaks against a blue background.
But we're preserving a place that it's an American place. It's an American story.
An aerial dusk shot of the brick building's clock tower with illuminated clock faces transitions to end credits. Title: Athens City Hall. Stories to tell. Producer/director Jason Dudash. Executive producer Scott Thompson. Photography/videography credits. Special thanks. Narrator Bernard Jones. And a production of TGC, the government channel, City of Athens, Ohio. Copyright 2025.